Today we're going to look at creating a simple audiovisual animation. Call it audiovisual because it's about directly correlating the idea of sound and image, or music and pictures. We're looking at animation simply because we're looking at trying to abstract your ideas a bit more and abstract away from necessarily video. And this correlates to an idea that some of the earliest filmmakers had about looking at the ideas around synesthesia, where different senses are confused and sort of cross-wired within the mind. And many philosophers, scientists, artists have tried to sort of pursue this idea of certainly music and sound having a visual counterpart. So we're looking at some of the original audiovisual animators like Oscar Fischinger, John Whitney, Mary Ellis Hughes, Ellen Hughes rather, just to get an idea of where their minds are at, and a lot of their ideas have really sort of set the stage and the foundations for a lot of current day music videos, live visuals, lighting ideas, and we take it for granted now that there is this link between sound and image. And we're used to seeing it on music visualizers on YouTube videos or on screensavers, that sort of thing. So we're very much used to this idea, but I'd like you to have a go at making an animation that links into some of these ideas. Okay, so if you have a look at the presentation that put together, looking at early approaches to making audiovisual video experiences. You can see there's quite a few examples, goes through the idea of synesthesia, and there's quite a few examples of videos and artists to look at. I'd recommend having a look at some of these just because it'll give you a bit of an insight and possibly a working practice to what we'll be trying to achieve today. And you can get inspiration from some of them, or you can go your own way. It's entirely up to you. So, first of all, let's open up Premiere and create a new project, as usual. I'm going to make sure I save it somewhere. I'm going to give it a name called Visual Music. Yeah, that'll work. Save it where we know where it lives. Otherwise, so that's fine. Don't worry about these. Click OK. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough, so I do apologise if I'm coughing a bit. I don't think it's contagious through the medium of video though. So, visual wake up. There we go. Great. So I'm in Premiere. If for whatever reason any of these panels are in a funny position or it doesn't quite look right, don't forget you can always go into Windows Workspaces and try one of these other ones. Or if you're in one, you're still thinking, I can't see the timeline or whatever, then don't forget you can always click Reset to Save Layout, and that'll pop things back to how they should be as default. Right, first things first, I'm going to create a sequence. So I'm going to File, New, Sequence. Oh, the timeline, same thing, Sequence Timeline. And as usual, I'm going to go down to HDV, High Definition Video. And I'm going to pick one of the 720 ones, regular HD. I'm not going to go full HD, although because we're not bringing in much video stuff, it won't be a huge file size, but 720p is a nice workable file size, especially for the iMacs in university. They can get a bit clogged down at times, so I want to make life easy on them when you're trying to play around with some stuff. So 720p should be fine for this. And I'm going to go for 25 frames a second, so that's a basic sort of video frame rate. And early animation would have been sort of only about, 10, 12, 15 frames per second. So we've got a lot more frames to play with. I'm going to import my audio because that is going to be the sort of the root of everything here, is looking at the audio, and we'll kind of create music around that. So I'm going to bring in an old 16-bit sound file from Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive. I'm going to drag that into my timeline. Great, I'm going to zoom in a bit. So down here, grab the edge of the scroll bar and zoom in, just so we've got a bit more room to play with. And it's a bit small. I want to see what I'm working with here. So I'm going to click and drag. There we go. the edge of that so I can see. There we go, that's better. I'll bring that out a bit actually. So get some sense of the patterns. Okay, so we've got these peaks here. If for whatever reason you can't see this waveform, click on the spanner settings and make sure that show audio waveform is set. If it's not, excuse me, make sure that's ticked and you can see what's going on. Let's have a quick listen to this. Oh, that's really loud. I'm going to just bring that down a bit. This middle bar here, that is sort of the overall gain. So I'm going to just bring that down just so it's not booming in your ears, especially if you're listening with headphones on. That's alright. Okay. I'd like you to create sort of 30 seconds worth of video for this, but for this exercise I'll probably only go up to about 9 or 10 seconds. So we'll go to that last bit where that first beat comes in, then we get a bit more going on. So, I want something to move, I want some pictures. We're not bringing in video at this point. We could do a bit later, and I might do, depending on how it goes. But we want to create shapes and colours in the similar style to some of the early animators. Certainly Oscar Fischinger. So I'm going to go over here to New Item down the bottom in the Project panel. Click on that, I'm going to choose Colour Matte. As default, it comes up as your settings, that's fine. Sequence settings, click OK, and it'll ask you to pick a colour. And go for pink. Name it, just because you don't want to suddenly not know where things are if you've got hundreds and hundreds of layers going on. So I'm going to kind of show you two ways about this. Okay, so the first way is to do this. Create a colour matte. We'll bring that in here. Great. Nothing going on there. It's just a big pink screen, isn't it? Let's just bring that up a bit. There we go. If we double click on the layer, we go up here to Effect Controls. There we go. So for those connected, click Effect Control selected rather. And under here, Video Effects, we've got Opacity. And there's these tools here to create a mask. Okay. So I'm going to start off by creating a circular mask, I think, for this. I'm going to sort of create a circle that pops up and sort of jumps into the beat. So if you tick that, you get a circle already made up. And these little edges, these nodes, can be clicked and dragged, and you can change the shape of those at will. Okay, and they relate directly to the mask path. If we click out of here, you'll see that there's a bit of a fuzzy edge around there. For some reason, as a default, Premiere seems to give everything a bit of a feather around the edge. So I want to bring that right down to 0. And we've got the usual things to play around with here that you'd expect with opacity. We've got opacity itself, makes it transparent or not. We've got mask expansion, which doesn't increase the size of the mask, but it sort of, so if I click in here, you'll still see select the mask there to be able to see the Bezier lines and things. You'll see that expansion sort of happening up here. Okay, so the actual mask is only this size, but then it sort of can expand out. So you could use that to sort of change the size of your thing. I'd probably recommend using scale as well and position, because effectively this is a complete layer you're moving and playing around with. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Right, so I'm going to start off here. So it's going to come in. How's this track start? It just starts in boom, boom. So I'm going to start off really, really small. Actually, I'm going to say at this point, where the beat comes in, I want that to almost be its biggest point. So I'm going to increase the size of this. So we're going to scale. I'm going to increase the size of the layer, like that. And if you're creating an animation, don't forget you click these little stopwatch icons. And when you do that, it creates a little diamond keyframe. Okay, now these keyframes say that something key is happening. Okay, on an animation point. Now I'm going to bring this back, dial it back a bit. I'm going to bring the scale right down. Okay, so in theory, it pops up. Boom, boom. Okay, and what I'd like to do is say halfway between the beats. I'm probably going to bring that down a little bit, not as much as it was originally. In fact, I might go right down to the beginning. If you go back to where the keyframe is, you can always change things sort of reactively as well to change stuff. So you can select keyframes, you can move them around. And what I might do actually is, I'm happy with the size of that keyframe, so I'm going to select the biggest keyframe there, and I'm going to copy, which I can bring this in so you can see what's going on a bit more. I'm going to bring it along, and as you move the top playhead, don't forget the bottom playhead moves as well. And you can also use the arrow keys to get a bit more accuracy. So on that beat, I'm going to paste. Yep. So copy. I'm going to paste that keyframe, and I could probably just again I'm going to copy the smaller keyframe. Through, and then copy the big keyframe and paste that in. In theory, I could probably get away with, excuse me, copying and pasting these right across the board, but I'm just going to play it safe for now. So bring it back to there. Yeah, I didn't quite get it. Okay, let's put this there. Oh, so it's going a bit more. Right, I'm just going to come back to here. Get the next beat. Paste. Paste. Let's go a quick rewind, just check what it looks like. Okay, it's not too bad. Actually, I'm going to increase the size of this layer just by going to the edge and dragging it, just so I've got a bit more to play with. Oop, what happened there? Oh, that's my computer being weird. Click and drag to 10 seconds. There we go. Okay, so you get the idea. So we're creating this sort of rhythmic. Okay. So you're going to go back and do things manually again. Here. Don't forget, if you move somewhere and you change one of these parameters, you're going to create a new keyframe. And here I think the beat doubles up, so whoa, that gets a bit mental. So we have to really zoom in here. Copy that. And between those, I'm going to just bring it right there. See what happens. Yeah, that's quite cool. Okay, so that's fine for now. Okay, so that's creating a single layer. And you can do a similar thing with, select a square, and you can also use the free draw pen tool. Now I'm going to show you the other way to make one of these layers. And it's a little bit more simple. It's going directly to the pen tool here, and this will almost just create a colour map for us. And I'm going to choose the pen tool for this one. And if you have over here, you should see a pen icon. The pen tool is quite interesting because the way to create something is you click. Oh, sorry, it's my computer being delayed there. You click, create a point, and then you click again, it creates another point. You click, you can create simple shapes like this. Okay, so let's undo that a sec. So yeah, I'm going to do that again. It defaults to a default colour. I think it's red, obviously, in this instance. So let's do that again. I'm going to create a diamond. Kind of wonky diamond, a hand-drawn one. That's fine. And you should be able to now go in and select. You can change the basis of these, but we should be able to do a bit more to this than. There we go. If you get the pencil selected again, you can click and drag these points, and we can animate these points as well. So I'm going to bring the graphic. I'm going to fade that graphic in. Actually, that would be quite cool. So I'm going to move the graphic layer to here, and if I go to the edge and right-click, I can just apply default transitions. You can also it fades in. You can also add transitions by going over to the effects and video transitions as well, and dragging any of those in. Okay, so we'll go listen to music. Bang, 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 bang. So that bass line, I'm going to try and do something with that. I'm not sure how successful I'll be. Okay, I can see that that point there is where something's happening with the baseline. So if we go into the graphic, select it there, and go back to pen tool. If we go to path here, I've already created a keyframe. Let's get rid of that keyframe. So I'm going to say at this point I'm going to start playing around with the path, and the path relates to that blue line that's both on the mask on the color matte layer and also this graphic layer. So if I click path, it creates a keyframe. If I go over to the layer itself, whoops, make sure it's selected. So you got to select it with that tool, or V, okay, shortcut, and then press P to be able to manipulate these. So I've got the path tool, I've created a keyframe, so now the idea is if I do that, wait, that's what I wanted to do. I'll bring that keyframe back and have it bong bong pointing out. So at this point, I'm going to change that shape. It's going to drag out to here. And then when it gets to the beat, I might bring it back over here. We get that bass tone happening there, so we'll do something like that. Let's hit the beat, maybe we'll have this thing sort of dancing around a bit, I suppose. Okay, now if you favour, you'll see what that looks like. So if I click out of here, so I don't see the lines. Okay, and we carry on working like this if we want. We can also just change the position and the movement of it by going to where we've got the shape layer here. And beneath here, rather than affecting the whole layer, we've got scale and position of the actual shape itself. So I might say on the beat, I'm click scale here. Maybe we'll make that bigger. There we go. And it's off the beat, I'll bring the scale down. Actually, that's when it's happening, that's when the bass is happening. So on the beat, maybe I'll just make it a bit smaller. Oh, that's a position. Wait, where are we? Oh yeah. Scale. Oh, that's quite interesting. So here, what you'll notice when I sort of shrunk that down, it sort of flew over to the corner, and you'd expect with a scale it would just sort of shrink where it's sitting. Now the reason it's doing that, if I click here, up over here there's this little sort of anchor point there. That is the sort of the animation anchor, I guess. So you can, wherever I move, wherever that is where everything else around it will be affected. So if I scale down, it'll scale down towards that. If I move, that'll be the point that gets moved. So I'd quite like to just maybe move that to more, I guess, center of this area. Obviously, because my graphic here is moving around, that may well change. If I'm playing with a straightforward circle or a square, that isn't really going to change. So I would move that into the center if it isn't already. It just gives you a bit more control over what you're doing. So I'm just going to click out here and see what we've got. Okay, so jump in and just quickly move some of these around. I do apologize, every time I'm sort of clicking, I'm moving my sort of bring the scale down. Click there. Whoa, it's gone big. Yeah. And that's what I'm playing with here. I think if you're trying to create something abstract, don't be afraid with the by the happy mistakes that might happen. Okay, so kind of just see it's a bit more of a fluid workflow. Okay, I'm happy with that for now. Let's just oh, if my computer can catch up, there we go. Let's see what we've got going on here. Okay, as you can see, it's quite a slow process. It's not as laborious process as it would have taken traditional animators, though I've got to admit. But it is a case of sort of doing things by hand. This is kind of why it's a good idea to have a bit of a plan beforehand. So I'd suggest sitting down, listening to your music, really sort of feeling what you've got. If it's a piece of music you've written yourself, all the better. You know what's going to be happening with it, so you can get a real sense of the shapes and the movement and the sections to it. And just sort of listen to your piece of music over and over a few times, eyes shut, and just any shapes or colours that come into mind, pay attention to them, use them. Or if it's imagery that comes into mind, play with those sorts of ideas, monkey on a cloud, or if it's just particular shapes or colours, just sort of note them down and think, right, maybe this is a route I can work with. Okay. I'm going to just bring in another layer now, and I'm going to carry on doing it this new way with the graphic. Bringing in a colour matte, I've got a feeling that might not work on older versions of Premiere Pro before 2018. I may be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, those essentially created if you selected the shape or pen tool, it would create a mask within a shape layer. So the newer versions of Premiere, now it sort of creates its own little graphic layer. So that's why I've shown you these two ways about it. So I would carry on just doing it this way. Let's just bring in a square now. So I'm going to bring in a rectangle, and let's say up here, draw a rectangle. That's a big old red. Actually, I'm going to change the colours of both of these. So this graphic here, here you've got the option of changing the appearance. So I'm going to make this green. Okay, and the blue square I've just brought in now. Let's make that. Oh, sorry, let's create a new one. This blue square, drag you in. Sorry, my computer's really struggling for some reason. I'm going to make the square blue. It says square. Let's make it a really wonderfully glowing blue. Right, let's get really rudimentary. Another thing you can also do, because these are layers, you can be treated like all the other layers we normally play with. So don't forget, you've also got blend modes. So for that green shape, I might see what happens if I bring in different blend mode. Let's call it cuts out the pink behind it, creates that sort of thing going on. Yeah, this is an instant way to start creating something a bit more, I was going to say a bit more organic, but at this point it's sort of creating something quite electronic and weird. Let's just see one more, sorry. Screen. That's the thing. Oh, does it? Spinning wheel of death. Come on. Moral of the story, don't have lots of software open and do a screen capture of some processor intensive software. Right. Oh, that was rubbish. Anyway, oh god. Let's go back to normal. Let's go back to light, and that was fine. Right, and the square. So what we'll do with the square now, I'll start sort of moving that around, so we'll use some of the other elements we haven't used yet. So I'm going to start with scale, I think, just because I quite like everything starting from a point. Let's just make that really big. And I'm going to move it to the centre. Okay, so scale, I'm going to tick that. I'm also going to click position. What I tend to do sometimes is start ticking a lot of these animation toggles, simply because you might be doing something, then you'll go in and start thinking, well, let's just move that, let's put it over there. And if you do that and you haven't selected the animation, it's not going to create keyframes for those elements. So it's worth doing. Well, I just thought of something else that may or may not work actually. So we'll start at scale big, and as that comes in, I'm going to do slightly slower things with this, something a bit more abstract. So we'll bring the scale in. See, that's the anchor point there. So let's have a quick look at where the anchor point is. Just click on it, it's up in the corner. I want to move that anchor point. Will it let me? No, it won't. It's being difficult. It won't because I've got a position set, so it thinks I'm going to start moving it around. So I'm going to delete. Don't forget those keyframes. If you want to sort of start fresh, just delete those keyframes. Oh, it starts moving everything around, obviously, but okay, if we have that's the center-ish. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to move my square back to the center. Right. Let's click back on. Let's get rid of the position there. Oh, that changed there. Because there's nothing else selected, it's not going to start moving, so that's fine. Scale is fine there. I'm going to get rid of that anchor point. Move that down there. Okay, so that's the center anchor point, that should be set now. So scale on this point, I'm going to bring this right down. Okay. And what also might be fun is playing with the rotation. So at this point we'll have spun it round and let's say moved it over here, and then at this point in the animation we'll move it over here. And if you notice, when I change the position of stuff through an animation, it creates this curve, it's known as the Bezier curve. And I can go in, I think, with my elements, with my arrow tool, and start moving those around. So if you can sort of almost change the shape of how it starts turning and moving around, so it's going to create, that way it's going to make more of an arc as it spins around to that point. So it's going to reverse this and see what I've got going on. Oh, what I'm also going to do is add a bit more rotation, so once it's going over to this part of the frame, maybe we'll just start rotating the other way. Rotating works by degrees, so you know, I actually want a bit more going on than that. There we go, spinning quite a lot. Okay, just for good measure, I'm going to throw in a blend mode on this one as well. So on this particular shape, let's see what blend modes we got. Let's see what overlay does. No. Let's do that. I think it was quite funny, like cutting it out. And the other thing you should be able to do is, because wherever you see the stopwatch, you can animate. So in theory, we can animate the colour going on here. So if I toggle that up, starts blue, but by the end of this little sequence, I'm going to have it so it's yellow. We haven't got a yellow yet, have we? Okay. So in theory, it should sort of go. Is it going to do that? Oh, I don't know if it is. Okay, that's a shame. We'll look into that. If you can't do that, you can also add effects to some of these. So let's just play this. Okay, so it's a start. It's a start to an animation, isn't it? Oh, it kind of did. Did it just jump to yellow? Yeah. I was really hoping that would phase into from blue to yellow. We can do that though by go to effects. I will wrap it up shortly. I've been talking for quite a while. Come on. Oh, sorry about this while I watch paint dry. You can also bring in video layers as well. You can add masks to those. So you could, in the same way that we created that matte layer, so pretend that was a video layer, you could then go into where you have opacity, and you could create a shape or a square and a circle. Oh, which reminds me, I'll show you something quickly now. Oh, come on. Okay, finally. Okay, effects. This isn't fun, is it? Right, video effects. Let's try color correction. I'm going to say color balance. Let's drag that into. Let's do it to the square. Why not? Let's go to the effect controls. See where I've got color balance. There we are. So over here, we're going to set hue to be the start of a keyframe, and then basically I'm going to rotate that hue around. So it's not spinning around. So we can go to red, and then by that point, we'll take it through to yellow. Oh, that's blue again. Oh, I think that's be rotating through the spectrum. So let's just play that. There we go. Okay, you have to excuse my computer. That probably needs a bit of a render, but it's a bit rough and ready. Anyway, that is the basic premise behind creating the shapes. One last thing, actually, is if we go back to editing. Oh, I could have just done it from where it was, probably. Anyway, I'm going to create one more layer. I'm not going to do anything with it, but I'm just going to show the idea behind the pen tool, creating curves. So if we click pen, you saw me creating that sort of polygon shape by clicking in one spot, clicking somewhere else, clicking somewhere else. If you click with the pen tool, then if you click and drag, you create these lines. So you can click and drag. You need to play around with it a bit. It's not the most natural thing at first, but you'll kind of get used to it. And then once you've made those shapes, so there's this shape here that seems to have created it within that graphic, which is a bit odd. Oh no, it is a separate shape, that's fine. It's not a separate layer though. Anyway, where that path tool is, this blue line is the path, so again, I think we have to go back into pen tool to do anything interesting. But these nodes here can be clicked and dragged. Okay, let me just move this a little bit just so we can see. If I then start trying to animate these, we can start creating something a little bit more interesting then. So there we go, see, it starts moving around like an amorphous blob. You can start creating things that are a bit more interesting than regular squares and whatever. Okay. Don't forget, because this is Premiere, you could always decide to just bring in a video as a background layer or as a mask or as a layer over the top, which you could then bring in blend modes with as well. Actually, I'm not going to do it now. My computer will literally just give up and die if I try and do that. So once you've done it, don't forget to export your video as we normally would. So Command and M, or File, Export Media. And then there we go. I would normally probably wouldn't choose QuickTime. Let's choose H.264. That should create. It will match the source, so it will match whatever we're playing with here. H.264. That's absolutely fine. It should be the right. Click on video. Yeah, it's the same size. Brilliant. Don't forget to save it the way you want. But H.264, it's a really great video codec for exporting to YouTube and the internet and stuff generally, and it doesn't really mess up your size or shapes or anything. So click export and let that spit out. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Sorry that my computer's being a bit slow. Apologise for any rambling, and apologise for my coughing as well. I'm full of cold. That's probably accounts for rambling too. Anyway, good luck with these, and I look forward to seeing them in the next couple of weeks. Take care. Bye bye.